betrothed by peace alone. That is the chorus. Days are coming. And this song later was repressed by Comrade Napoleon, who was very corrupt. And now they substituted this song by singing Napoleon, the song which was Comrade Napoleon, which was praising Napoleon. Like the way you normally hear, Comrade Museveni, Comrade Aguta, Rekatabarwa, and the man where they found the bush wars, heaven the courage, until when their blood was shed for Uganda. No. Did you go to the bush to shed more blood when our colleagues are dying? So, I want to end here, but demanding a response. You know, our speaker wrote a letter to President Museveni requesting to know how our MPs were arrested, tortured, everything. What transpired? We've not gotten any response from President Museveni. Right Honorable Speaker Kadaga, we thank you. But we are demanding for this response. We are reliably aware that the day when we were attacked in Parliament, during the days of Constitution Amendment, you also wrote a letter, but we've never gotten any response. So can we see the response from President Museveni? I wish to thank also the Chief Justice for condemning whatever is happening. And fun enough, he spoke yesterday, and now people were blocked again, and they're even masquerading that they want to bring them to court. How are you going to take them to court when they are seriously ill? They cannot even stand on their own. Let us respect the law. I thank you so much. For God and my country.
Who is once again in charge?
My OB.
Yes.
Now
We are together.
Is it?
I'll basically share with you the story on exactly how our colleagues ended up the way they are today. And here I mean Honorable Bobi Wine and Honorable Zaake. On the 13th of August, in the evening after Warari, we moved to the hotel peacefully. Almost 2 hours later, hell broke loose. Now, before the arrival of the special forces with a few policemen, Honorable Chagulanyi, Bobi Wine, and Honorable Zaake moved to the hotel where they had booked. So the rest of us were still at this hotel, the Loyal Hotel. And these fellows jumped off the vehicles and started shooting randomly. We literally landed, fell on ground, crawled into the nearest rooms we could find. We were later picked from these very rooms, beaten up seriously, and dumped at Arua Central Police Station. A few minutes later, Honorable Zaake was brought 3/4 dead. He could hardly understand what was going on, hardly hear anything. He was convulsing. We shouted, made all the noise we could that they take him to hospital. I remember trying to reach him and say, Honorable Iskaranga. And the only words he said were oxygen, oxygen, oxygen. Eventually, the police allowed to bring the ambulance. And he was rushed to hospital. Now, we did not hear of him because we could not communicate. We had no phones. Then later we were taken to Gulu police station, the central police station of Gulu, at 2 a.m. Eventually, we had the worst experience at Gulu police station. Sleeping on cement, no mattress, no mat, no blanket, zero. And the food that even some of our colleagues would bring to us, they would send them away. You can imagine, in 3 days you literally have one meal. And you are on cement for a whole day, whole night, 24 hours. On the 4th day, we were taken to court and remanded to Gulu Central Prison. About 10 days later, in incarceration, Honorable Chagulanyi Bobi Wine was brought to Gulu Central Prison. The doctor that was to see him first before he was admitted in the prison, when he saw him, he refused to touch him until there was a witness. And the Honorable Bobi Wine called for me, because they told him your colleagues are here, you can choose one of them, and he said, you can call me Honorable Karanga. I remember seeing him. It took me about 2-3 minutes to say a word to him. He was in deep pain. He was tortured almost every part of his body. You know, you could hardly find even the words to describe the state he was in. And then you are thinking, why bring such a person to prison in such a state? And then the doctor said, okay, now we can do the examination. So he had to remove all the clothes. I have seen very traumatizing scenes, but I want to say that was one of the most traumatizing events any human being could encounter. I want to demonstrate for you how he was injected by all sorts of drugs. So, when he was in military incarceration, so they started from here, because the marks were very clear. They injected him here, they injected him here, they injected him here, injected him here, and here. Now, some of these drugs were too strong, and we for heaven's sake, we pray they were good drugs. Because there is one particular one he explained that he got such a serious reaction that he had literally all sorts of blood inside the skin. You could see it in the entire palm. All these parts around here was blood inside. That injection caused him a lot of reaction. And there are scenes I cannot even say in public. Now, these two colleagues were terribly tortured and very unfortunate, because remember, the two of them were found just separated because for us we were found as a bigger group. So the reason largely I think they were tortured more is that they actually were found just the two of them. Now for us we were about 30 of us. So somehow the beating was, they beat here when you are 30, somehow you share the beating. But you imagine 20 or so people descend on just 2 people. Now, and can you imagine, when we were at Arua Central Police, these fellows came 3 times, and here I mean special forces. They came 3 times to pick me and Honorable Mwiru. The police refused to cooperate because they had seen the state in which Zaake had been taken to hospital. They came the first time, they looked around, and then we could tell what they were trying to do. We could hear what they were talking to the police. They came the second time. This time they actually made it to almost the bigger room where we had been kept. And the third time, one of them even managed to sneak inside the room pretending to be one of us, until we discovered him, and we made lots of noise, and he was ejected very quickly. All this time, you are treating human beings as if they are not even animals. You can't treat an animal like that. And then you finally we get bail. These colleagues want to seek medical attention, get treatment. And all you are saying is that no, you can't. So how inhuman can this regime be? You know that there are levels of humanity, but there are levels where it goes to another level now. You wonder how on earth? And what message, what do they want to tell? What is this supposed to mean? That we should be heartbroken and fear, that the regime can cramp you down? Oh. You know you can only deal with the flesh. You can crush the flesh, you cannot crush the spirit. How I wish they could know that. Actually, the more you subject the flesh to torture, the stronger you make the spirit. And that we are much stronger. We are going to do everything we can as colleagues. Whether it means organizing demonstrations or strikes, our colleagues must enjoy their inherent right to get medical attention. That they must enjoy. When we sit back and see the worst happen to colleagues, then what moral authority do we have to question anything? Lastly, Martin Niemöller once said that they came for the socialists. I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. They came for the trade unionists. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. They came for the Jews. I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then finally they came for me, and there was nobody to speak for me. Fellow parliamentarians and Ugandans out there, the plight of Honorable Bobi Wine Chagulanyi, the plight of Honorable Zaake is our own plight as the people of Uganda, as citizens. We cannot afford to sit back. We cannot afford to relent. We cannot afford to be intimidated. Let's get together. Make sure that our colleagues get, for now, this is so urgent. This is a matter of life and death. They must get medical attention. Whether Museveni and his cronies want it or not, they must get medical attention. And this we can achieve if we all come out. They will have no choice. If we all come out strongly and really take on this, they will get the medical attention. Let's do it. Thank you.
Well, maybe to add something small. For me, this is an attack on Ugandans. It is not just an attack on members of parliament, because members of parliament are representatives of Ugandans. And therefore, look at this as an attack on the people of Uganda. All these crimes against humanity are meted on Ugandans. If SFC is attacking members of parliament, because it was SFC that attacked members of parliament here in the House, it is SFC attacking members of parliament in Arua. It is SFC attacking members of parliament at the airport. It is SFC versus Ugandans. It is Museveni's protection unit versus Ugandans. You cannot torture somebody and then pretend to want to treat them yourself. I want to condemn this bestiality in this country, this inhumanity. You know, this is really so ashaming that you have some leaders in this country that can condone this. I can tell them it is coming to them. It's not going to stop at a few of us. It is going to come to them. And the area we agreed as parliament, as members of parliament, stop this, the better for all of us. Finally, I want to ask Ugandans that enough is enough. We cannot allow this to continue, this inhuman behavior. People think they are still in the bush. The way they are behaving, they behave like bushmen. We cannot continue to see this happening, and we fold our hands, whether we are members of parliament, whether we are civil society, whether we are religious leaders, whether we are even security themselves. We must stand up with one voice and say enough is enough, and ask Museveni and his people to leave Ugandans to live. Chirudu has now become a detention center. It is no longer a hospital. It is just a detention center. I visited Honorable Namboza yesterday. She is rotting. All the points on which she was injected from Chirudu are rotting. Actually, she's going to lose her leg soon. Now, it is the same center, detention center, where you're taking members of parliament. We don't know what is being injected to them in Chirudu. We don't know what was injected to them in Arua and in Guru. And all you're saying, don't go out so that they can discover what we injected in you. That's all you're saying. We don't want the world to know what type of poison was injected to you. We will not allow this to continue, and I want to thank my colleagues, and I would want to ask all other members of parliament, all other Ugandans, that we all come up with one voice and say, enough is enough, this cannot continue.